Hello, and welcome to the second episode of Chorus Place. I'm so glad you've chosen to join me for today's conversation. In today's episode, I will be talking about what I've been doing during this season of COVID. As always, if you like what you hear, please leave a review and/or comments, follow my podcast, and tell your friends. I will be adding discussion questions at the end again, and I would love to hear your answers. I will also be telling you my answers after I ask each question. I've made a podcast page on Facebook, and I would really appreciate it if you'd like and follow if you haven't already. If you'd like to contact me via email, you can email me at corachin@mailbox.org. If you are new here, welcome. I'm your host, Cora, and I'm so excited to have you on this journey with me. Before I get into today's topic, I have a very exciting announcement to share with all of you. Starting today, I'll be sharing a verse that I like and my thoughts on it in each episode from now on, unless I can't think of any that I feel would fit the particular topic of the episode. Today's verse is from 2 Corinthians 1:4 in the New Living Translation. It says, "He comforts us in all our troubles so that we can comfort others. When they are troubled, we'll be able to give them the same comfort God has given us." This verse is saying to me that God gives us comfort when we go through trials. So that way, when friends or family go through the same trial or similar, we can encourage them and help them through it. Being able to help others in a trial is hard when you haven't been in that trial before. When you have been through that trial before, it makes it easier to try to help them because you can share your experience, share songs, verses, or other things that helped you. And you'll be able to better understand how you can help them through it. Now, sit back, get comfortable, and enjoy today's episode. Today, I'll be talking to you about what I've been doing during this period of COVID. Those of you who know me know that I enjoy socializing and going out to places, such as the library, church, youth groups, and so on. Unfortunately, I haven't been able to hang out a whole lot with people or go do a lot since this whole thing started. Thankfully, as of the recording of this episode, life is pretty much normal now. It was hard for me not to have much of a routine and to be forced to be socially distant from friends. I was doing fun videos with friends on an app called Marco Polo, which is a video chat app. It is similar to FaceTime or Skype, but instead of missing calls, you can send people videos and they respond when they have time. It's really fun. You can use fun voice effects and camera filters. I also texted friends, slept, wrote, watched church, watched Wednesday Night Live, I'll talk about that more in a bit, watched or went to the high school small groups in my church, drove some when I could, worked on things for this podcast as I could, wrote letters, listened to music, watched shows, spent time outside some when it was nice out, played games, watched some movies, and not a whole lot else. It was really fun to be able to do things I don't normally get to do. I have also been following a ministry for Christian girls of any age, teens and up mostly though, which I'll talk about later. The best part about staying home is/was getting to do things I don't get to do a ton. The hardest part is/was not seeing people as often. I love seeing people, so when I don't see people as much, it's really hard. Wednesday Night Live is something that my church did from March 2020 to around the end of July 2020, and then during Advent in December of 2020. They did games, worship, skits, a weekly neighborhood spotlight, and a message. It was really fun. I liked the games they played, and I loved the worship. The messages were really good too. There was one message that the lead pastor at my church did that was really good. He talked about things we can control, things we can't control, how we need to be open-handed with things we can't control, and how we need to hold the things we can control in tight fists. With everything that's been going on in the world the last couple of years, it was a great message and definitely something I need to remind myself of often. Another message was on how we need to have double-fisted faith. Like you can hold one in the air and say to God, "I know that even in the midst of my trials, you are good." And we can hold the other in the air and say, "Even if my trials don't get better for a while, you are still good." Another sermon discussed how God is our provider and how we must trust that God will provide for all of our needs. I really enjoyed it. If you would like to watch them, the whole first season and the Advent ones are available through either Facebook or YouTube. You can find them under the name Chapel Street Church. At church, we do a few things. We sing a few songs, pray, have announcements in the offering, listen to the sermon, do one last song, once a month we have communion, and before and after the service we talk with people. I love church. At my church, they normally do 6 services between Saturday night and Sunday morning on 4 campuses as of the recording of this episode. They also do 2 different online services on Sunday as well, which is nice. One of the online services is contemporary, and the other online service is traditional. The virtual option is nice for when you are sick, out of town, or if you serve somewhere in your church on Sunday mornings and can't be in the service. But I like being in person the best. I feel like the virtual services are different than in person. I mean, they're still good, and basically the same thing as the live in-person service, but they just feel different. I think that's because you can't have actual in-person interaction with others when you are virtually attending church. At one campus, they usually do all hymns for one service, and the other one is a mixture of more contemporary songs and hymns. They stopped doing the second service with both contemporary songs and hymns, though. At the other 3 campuses, we mostly just do contemporary songs. During COVID, we met outside for outdoor services when the weather was nice. Once it started to get colder, we began meeting inside again. When we first started meeting inside in the fall of 2020, the services were a little shorter so that staff had time to clean in between. You used to have to wear a mask and register for the services, but you no longer have to wear a mask during the service or register for the services as of the recording of this episode. They brought back the outdoor services at a couple of the campuses for the summer of 2021, and there were a few in the summer of 2022 as well. On Christmas Eve, we'd get our candles for the end as we walked into the sanctuary to find seats, sing Christmas songs, light all of the Advent candles, hear a message, and then at the very end of the service, everyone would light their candles while singing Silent Night. At my church, they aren't actual candles though. They are just plastic lights that look like candles. I mentioned earlier that I've been following a ministry for Christian girls. It's called Girl Defined Ministries. The 2 founders are sisters, and they live in San Antonio, Texas. As of the recording of this episode, they have 5 different books, lots of videos on their YouTube page, lots of blog posts on their website, and they started a podcast called The Girl Defined Show. I highly recommend their podcast. They post videos on topics like modesty, friendships, relationships, prayer, reading your Bible, dealing with emotions, and lots of other topics too. They've offered an online mentorship course a couple of times as well. I took the course back in September/October of 2020, and it was an absolutely amazing experience. I learned so much from the course. They did 8 different topics over 8 weeks. They talked about prayer, who God is and who we are, how to have a personal devotional time, how to trust God in every season, how to use the Bible to help with personal struggles, how to find freedom from sin, becoming a girl who chases truth for herself, and how to mentor younger girls. The course was so incredible, and I highly recommend it to any women or teen girls looking to grow in their faith. You just have to have a Bible, pen, notebook, and a computer or phone with internet access. In the class, you are given homework to work on, so I would recommend printing that out as well to make it a little easier for yourself. Here are the discussion questions. If you are a Christian, when did you really start to become closer to God? I started to become closer to God just before and on the trip I took to Florida and Kentucky that I mentioned in the previous episode. That trip gave me a lot more time to read my Bible and grow spiritually. What is something that God has been teaching you in this time of quarantine? God has been teaching me a lot about myself, how I need to find real rest in Him to be refreshed emotionally, mentally, and spiritually, how He is my provider. There aren't always going to be things that I specifically can control, how I can choose joy, and lots of other things too. I've also realized how important friendships are. I find it really easy to forget those things when I'm in the middle of a trial, so I really need to keep working on it a lot more. I'll take a deeper dive into more of what I've been learning throughout the last few years in a future episode. What is your favorite memory so far of being a Christian? I feel like my favorite memory of being a Christian so far is either growing a lot more spiritually in the last couple of years, or when I was baptized in 2016. Being baptized was really scary for me, but I feel so much better now that I've done it. What is the biggest thing you have learned in your faith walk? I think the biggest thing God has taught me is either that life won't always be easy, that I need to always choose joy in hard circumstances, or that I, as a human, try to fix problems all on my own when I should really be looking to God to satisfy me, help me, and comfort me. Every single one of these is much easier to say that I believe rather than actually believing them. I hope you enjoyed the second episode. As always, if you liked today's episode, please follow my podcast, leave a comment and/or review, and tell your friends. Again, I would love to hear your answers to the discussion questions. If you have any verses you'd like me to read on a future episode, or if you have any topics you'd like me to talk about, please send me a voice message through the link in the show notes, or a message on my podcast Facebook page, and I'll get back to you when I can. If you'd rather contact me via email, you can email me at corachin@mailbox.org. Thank you for listening. I hope you tune in next week for the third episode.